Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I am the publisher, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me is Josh Mansfield. First and foremost, we're just doing one show this week. We know we failed you on Tuesday. Everybody refreshing the podcast feed. Where the hell is the Upshot? Well, I've been in transit holiday weekend. I'm actually leaving later today for more production and commentary stuff. It's a busy time, so we're just doing one show. We hope you forgive us, and we're just going to make it a jam-packed show. How's that sound, Josh?
This one is dense, Charlie. We've got so much to cover today. So
we do. We're going to talk MVP Open. Obviously, we're going to look ahead to the Green Mountain Championships coming up. We're going to talk with somebody who shot 3 aces in a tournament. So we're looking forward to that conversation as well. First and foremost, I want to bring something up that I saw on Twitter, Josh. And it is that the Netflix and the PGA Tour are producing a docuseries on the upcoming season. It's modeled after Formula One's Drive to Survive success. Now, I don't know if you've seen this, but Formula One has this show on Netflix called Drive to Survive. I found out about this like 3 months ago, and everybody's telling me how amazing it is. And now I have friends who have never paid attention to car racing at all, religiously watching F1 on weekends and deeply committed to caring about car racing. The golf show on Netflix, PGA Tour show, is going to be focused on about a dozen players. Several top professionals are on board. Others are in negotiations. And there's been a lot of excitement about this concept for golf. So here is my question. Would this work in disc golf? And if so, well, let's talk a little about the general concept, and then let's talk about some players that we would want to see featured. Anyway, so again, have you seen the show Drive to Survive, Josh?
No, I've not watched that personally.
So it basically, you get to hear a lot from the people involved, some of the very top drivers, but then also some people who are trying to climb the ladder and make it up big. And I'm not a big F1 guy, so I can't really speak to it. But also you get all of this interpersonal drama, and it's just very compelling television. There's been some concerns from the golf folks that PGA Tour professionals are a little stuffy, a little too media trained, polished, and that it's not going to have the necessary, real talk, truthful feel to it in order to make it really compelling. So would this work in disc golf? Would you watch a docu-series that followed, let's say, 10 to 15 players over the course of their touring season?
I think so, but I'm not. The problem is that I think that we have a little bit of the opposite problem of golf, and we've talked about this before about why rule enforcement is really difficult, is because the guys that you would expect Eagle to trash talk, he's going to jump in a van with or an Airbnb later and end up staying with some of those guys, right? So, you could ask him questions. You can ask any of those players questions. I think there's going to be limited responses just given how tight and how close everyone kind of is by the necessity of economic circumstances. And so I probably would watch this in maybe 5 years. I think disc golf might be a little not quite there yet to get some of the trash talk. And I mean, maybe there's not, I don't know how much there is in the F1 show, but I would hope for, a little bit of that brutal honesty and, I don't know, Nico talking about Nico or something about, and him throwing a fit on the course that I don't know if we'd get right now.
I don't know if I agree. I
really,
I mean, well, Ricky and Paul have outright, just slandered each other in the newspapers sometimes. I mean, remember the whole thing that started the drama between Paul and Rick was that Paul, I forget the newspaper. Was it the Los Angeles Times? There was some big feature about Macbeth, and he was yeah, Ricky can never win when it actually counts. He always chokes when it actually matters. This is a quote in the newspaper. I mean, that's And we're talking about the number one player in the world at the time, talking about basically the number two player in the world at the time. And that's great stuff. I feel like if you put people in front of a camera and you ask them questions, pointed questions about like, what did you think when, Eagle McMahon, lost his temper? Like, sure, some players are not going to give you anything good, but you only need one good quote to make good TV out of it.
It's true.
So I actually think that this would play incredibly well. And this is an opportunity, I actually think, for one of the YouTube outfits. We get a lot of the same stuff right now. Obviously, round coverage, great, fine. But then it's like practice round, skins. How many different practice rounds and skins things do we have to have every single week on tour? I mean, I don't watch any of that stuff. That's not for me. So I'm thinking like, okay, one of these companies should say, all right, we're going to start working on like doing a documentary series. And you don't even have to put it out in the same season. You record and record and record, and then you edit it in the postseason and put it out. Or maybe you get really ambitious and you try to do the edits during the season. I think it could be very compelling because disc golf professionals are, I think, very open, very authentic, very honest. And I think you could imagine it working out well to hear them like talk about the trials and tribulations on tour. I mean, I heard some interesting stuff just this week that like a lot of disc golf touring pros work like at DoorDash or, Grubhub as a driver, as a side gig at tournaments because they need to make enough money to live, and they're not necessarily, not everybody's making enough from their sponsorship or their tournament winnings to cover the cost of their, living expenses. And this apparently is a very common thing, which I had never heard that before.
I haven't either.
I would love to hear more about that. I think there's a huge opportunity. Right now we get very sanitized versions of stuff, right? Mostly what we see is players on camera during rounds, and then their personal social media posts, which of course they're choosing what to put out there. But we don't get that great deep insight into the grind of the season, the highs and the lows, the wins and the losses. And like some players are better about this than others. And, you can feel like you're closer to somebody like Simon, who does very personal vlogs, but not all the players do that. And especially at this point in the year, I'm seeing way less of that because I think players just have to focus on the golf and don't have time to do as much of the, the vlogging and stuff. So anyway, long story short, I don't know if Netflix is going to come knocking anytime soon, but there's a real opportunity to do something like this. My question is, who would you want to see featured in such a program? Because you can't do everybody. So who do you pick?
I think it'd probably include. I mean, you're your top guys, right? You have to have the top of the tour: Paul, Ricky, Eagle, Calvin. I think I would also include though, like Chris Dickerson. I'd want to see kind of the decisions about when to go on tour and how he takes that into account and considering his tour schedule. On the FPO side, I really both FPO and MPO. I think these are two people who are very active on social media. But I would love to watch Colton and Kona and their travel because they're at every tournament, but just kind of see how their season goes and the way that they progress and those highs and lows. I think someone else that would be fascinating would be Kevin Jones, to see his highs and his lows. And I mean, specifically after like Portland, like, what is your mental state after that?
Like 2-hour interview.
Oh man, it'd be compelling. You're right. Yeah.
Well, you just rattled off like 10 names. So now you've filled all the slots. That's the hard part. No. I mean, that's what I'm saying. That's the hard part, right? I think you have to decide how many of those top players do you want? Because I agree you need some. I would definitely want to see Eagle. Mm-hmm. I think Ricky, Paul. I don't know about Calvin. I don't know if Calvin makes a cut. I think I worry a little bit about like, would he be good on television? I mean, he's got a little personality, but it's not the best interview. So I'm not convinced that that's the guy. I'd probably like to see Adam Hammis. Definitely Paige Pierce, have to. And Catrina, have to. And then maybe Haley King. I like the Colton Kona combo. That's an interesting one. But then I also want somebody who's like coming up a little bit.
Oh, agreed.
But not too young. You know, I don't want Gannon Burr, but
what about like Kyle Klein?
Well, maybe Kyle Klein.
I don't know.
I want somebody who's kind of like a grinder in the trenches. I mean, do you put Brody Smith on this? If you're a reality TV producer, you probably do.
Yeah, honestly.
Anyway, we'll let you send us your emailed thoughts. Upshot@ultiworld.com. Let us know. Would you watch this show? Who would you want to see on it? Let's talk some MVP Open. First and foremost, let's talk about the results. Very interesting weekend for sure. MPO side, Adam Hammis with a 9-under final round comes away with the win. He beats Eagle McMahon and Ricky Wysocki by 3 strokes. Matt Oram and Calvin Heimberg and Matt Bell come in tied for 4th. Over in FPO, ends up being a pretty dominant win by Catrina Allen. She beats Kona Panis by 7 strokes. Paige Pierce, Haley King in 3rd and 4th, and then a tie for 5th place between Missy Gannon and Tiger Borth. Nice finish for Tiger Borth. So what stood out to you most this weekend, Josh? It really looked to me like Eagle McMahon was going to win this tournament through 2 rounds, looking so sharp, and then just lays an egg in the front 9 of the final round and can't find the rhythm from circle 2 and ends up losing by 3 strokes.
Adam Hammis looked like a professional. He gave me, when Paul Macbeth wins tournaments and goes into those final round clutch moments and just doesn't miss, that's how Adam Hammis felt. And if you look at his stats, I mean, his round wasn't even like, it's not like it was perfect. He missed a couple circle 1 putts. And if you look at the stats overall, Adam Hammis had not a great overall putting weekend. 88% circle 1X, 21% circle 2, only 1.83 strokes gained on the putting green. Not great. But he could not miss a drive. He was in circle 1 regulation over 50% of the time at 56%. Next highest, 46% Calvin, who, finished down in 4th. It just could not miss a drive. It was phenomenal. And so, there are wins when you see someone's putter just really come alive and they can't miss the putt. But this was the one that felt like the pressure wasn't on the putting. Every single drive off the tee pad, you were like, there goes the pressure. He just handled it off the tee. And so when he got to the green, even though his putting wasn't spectacular, it was enough because he was just playing so well from the tee.
Drive for dough. I
Right.
don't really say you putt for show, but you definitely drive for dough in disc golf. I remember back to Las Vegas Challenge. Adam Hammis played. He was not putting well that weekend. I don't remember where he finished, but he wasn't like up in the hunt. But I remember saying after that tournament, Adam Hammis is going to have a good season because his drives were so good. I mean, he was up in the top in strokes gained tee to green, and he was looking really good by the eye test. And it's like the putting's going to be there. We know the putting's going to be there with Hammis, and it's just a matter of time. And I think that has held true. Now, he has not been super consistent. He has not been rock top 5 every week type guy. But when he puts it together like he did this weekend, I think you see what the ceiling is, which is him dominating. I think Adam Hammis, if he can find more consistency, is a top 5 guy, top 3 guy on tour. Because his ability, I mean, he distance-wise, I'm not sure he's like the absolute furthest thrower, but on a course that doesn't really fully demand that, I think he's such a threat because he does have the full package. He can hit the lines, and he can certainly hit the putts. He didn't even need to have like a lights-out weekend in order to win by 3 strokes. And, credit to him for playing as well as he did in the final round when the other top competitors, I mean, Ricky had a great round too, but couldn't do quite enough and made a couple of mistakes down the stretch. Eagle, on the other hand, I don't know. It's just weird with him sometimes. Like, it seems like some days he's just like looks unbeatable, and then the next day he can't hit a putt or he can't find the line off the tee. It's a little weird. It's a little weird.
Well, on hole 17, I was also traveling this weekend, driving back from Montana, and had no service. So I watched the Jomez video. Jomez typically hides, and it doesn't hide, right? But they don't show a lot of the in-between shots, you don't get quite the same feel for where the players are at. Eagle misses a putt, circle 2, hole 17. This would bring him back within a stroke of Adam Hammes to go into hole 18, which then can really set up for some drama, given that you can birdie hole 18, but it's very difficult. Eagle misses the putt, and he just shouts, like, I can't putt today. The first part's a little fuzzy, so it's something can't putt today. But in, like, I think he punched his disc. I mean, he just a mini like outburst. It's not anything that I'm like, oh my goodness, like courtesy stroke Eagle, how dare he? But I think when you're hearing that, it's very indicative of a mental state. And Eagle he wasn't in the right headspace this weekend in this final round. Simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems to come and go. I mean, and obviously the talent ceiling is higher than anybody. I mean, I think he is the most gifted player on tour right now. And like when it's clicking, he can just roll away with events. And I think especially on longer courses where he can use his unbelievable power advantage to kind of separate from the rest of the pack, that's been huge for him. I think it was really encouraging to see him play so well at MVP. And I think that, he's somebody to probably think about picking to win tournaments for the rest of the year. However, it's true. Like, he doesn't always seem to maintain composure on the course. It's that simple. And like, I even take away the like punch the ground thing, which was sort of this fluky, weird thing. Like punching the ground, like I've punched the ground or whatever after a bad putt. But I haven't broken my hand, right? So he like gets this sort of weird, unlucky handbrake. But I mean, we've seen it. Slamming the mini into the bag, the little, I can't putt today. I mean, he only shot 11% from C2, which is very atypical for him. I mean, he's normally in the 40% range. I mean, one of the best on tour. Just could not find the range. And I just think sometimes when things go a little wrong, they seem to keep going wrong instead of getting sorted out and going right. And that's an area of his game that has to improve. You can't let what happened 2 holes ago affect you now. And I think that that's going to be something that he's got to work on in the off season, because it's definitely, it feels like he gives away tournaments sometimes. And he should be somebody who dominates like, Paul did 5 years ago and just like wins everything. And you expect him to win every tournament. And I don't think we're there yet with Eagle. I do not expect him to win every tournament.
I think if, like you said, if he clears that head space, if he gets that mental game down, he will. But I agree. I agree. Right now, I don't pick him to win everything. Shout out to Calvin Heimberg, round 3, ace on hole 5. Just that forehand over the water, cash money. Money. Splash. Yeah. They said on commentary that was only Calvin's. So before this season, Calvin had never had a tournament ace. And this season, he's had 2 of them now. So
nice, heating up.
Yeah,
but he didn't get 3 in one round.
No, he didn't.
On, step up.
3 in one tournament.
In one tournament.
One tournament.
3 in one round is. I wonder if that's ever happened. Only on a little dink and dunk course.
Yeah.
So elsewhere in MPO, before we move on and talk FPO, I just want to note that we're seeing some guys just really playing super well for a consistent stretch of time. Matt Bell, tied for 4th. Joel Freeman, tied for 7th. Andrew Marweed, tied for 7th. I mean, Andrew Marweed's been like top 10 finishing everything. And yeah, he's not winning, but he's really on a nice hot streak, and for me was an easy lock in the power rankings ballot that I just put in. Top five right now because of his consistency. So just wanted to point that out. How about Paul Macbeth down at 11? Anything to read into this? I mean, here we are giving Eagle grief for not, closing out the win, and Paul Macbeth shouldn't get a pass for finishing 11th.
No, he shouldn't. I think what I'm going to, it's something that we say all the time in the season. We're measuring. I mean, and I put Paul to win, right? But the putting Paul to win wasn't oh yeah, Paul's going to lock this. Like Paul's got this on lock. It was he's kind of due because he's had a little bit. Not a great stretch. Like his seasons felt a little off. And, we say this oftentimes, we're comparing him relative to expectations. We're expecting Eagle to play this well. When Eagle goes into the lead of the final round with 4 strokes, we expect Eagle to probably win that, just knowing his skill level. This season, I don't expect Paul to win. And that's, I don't think that's saying Paul's not one of the greatest players of all time. That's not. It's just you have stretches of seasons. You have seasons that you're just in a bit of a slump, and I think Paul's experiencing that right now a bit.
And there's just more good players. I think that's the simple story. Right. You have Kyle Klein and Adam Hammes and Calvin Heimberg and this whole group of players that's just simply playing better now, and that means that you really have to be sharp to win. And obviously Paul Macbeth has won tournaments this year, and he should have won Worlds. And it's not like he's fallen off dramatically, but it is surprising still to see him miss the top 10. It
is. That's true. That missing top 10 is something that Paul is not. It does not happen to Paul very often.
And pretty much every year he's in the conversation for Player of the Year. I don't think he's in that conversation right now. Let's talk about this. Has Catrina Allen played her way into the Player of the Year conversation after her win this weekend? Because it was pretty much very clearly Paige Pierce. Mm-hmm. But Catrina won Worlds, and it's okay, that's a sick win. Huge, biggest tournament of the year. But that's not enough to win Player of the Year when Paige wins 5 straight leading up to Worlds. But now Catrina has clearly been the best player of the last month and has a couple straight wins. Is she now in the mix, or is it still Paige's to lose?
So first off, past month is a bit of a stretch, I think. We talked about how she didn't play great. We were just talking about how she underperformed in the grind month, where Deaglow 3rd, Preserve 5th, Ledgestone 7th, Idlewild 4th. So, but Delaware MVP Open has been the best player without a doubt.
Let's say the last 2 weeks then, because you're all right. Not wrong.
It's close. I think she has played her way into it, because I think the World's win is significant enough. And remember, she also won Jonesboro.
She won Jonesboro.
So she does have one extra win in addition to MVP Open. And, Delaware, she's got Open at Belton, Silver Series. Paige wasn't there. Delaware win, Paige wasn't there. I'm not saying it wasn't a dominant win. I'm just saying, for the sake of this exercise of Player of the Year, she wasn't there. Here's what I will say. If Catrina Allen wins Player of the Year, she should probably send a thank you card to Kristen Tatar for just dominating in that stretch when she didn't play well, because otherwise Paige goes win Deaglow, win Preserve, win Ledgestone, win Idlewild, and this season's over.
That's a good point.
So if Catrina wins, it is in large part. It's partially thanks to Kristen Tatar.
Yeah, but I think you have to look at what's coming up, right? If let's say Catrina Allen wins GMC, and then she wins Music City,
which Paige is not at,
right? Because it's a national tour. Katrina is easily leading national tour points.
Oh,
right
yes.
now. Well, I shouldn't say easily. Haley King is close second. And I think, then it's like, all right, well, if you win Throw Pink Championship in Rock Hill and you win the Pro Tour Championship, then I think you give it to Catrina.
Mm-hmm.
If she sweeps the rest of the way, basically. Now, if let's say she wins 2 of the 4, then I don't know. But I mean, I think it's now a conversation as to where it wasn't before. She has 3, Elite Series wins plus Worlds. And I think if she can get, the non-major Throw Pink Championship and the Pro Tour Championship, that's enough for me to say, okay, it's yours. But it's going to take at least 2 more wins in my mind. But she's now in the race, whereas no one was in the race with Paige before. But I think she's really played well these last few tournaments.
Here's a question for you, and you kind of alluded to it, so you may have already answered. Throw Pink Women's Championship. Do you consider that above, in terms of weight, second behind only Worlds? Or I guess it'd be third behind Worlds and Women's National Championship. Like, it feels like a major.
It definitely feels like a major.
I think you have to
gonna
weight
feel
it.
like a major. I'm gonna basically consider it a major.
Okay.
Except that it doesn't have an M next to it. But
okay.
I mean, in a way, it feels more important than the U.S. Women's Championship.
Agree.
I have to be honest. Like, I will count U.S. Women's Championship as a major in the ledger, and you have to consider that. But it's not going to feel, that win will not feel as impressive to me as who wins the Throw Pink Championship. Simple as that. Timing,
I think then,
prestige of venue, the whole thing.
I agree. And given that that's the case, I think if Catrina wins 2 of the 4 and one of them is the Throw Pink Championship, I think it's hers.
Okay. Well, there we go. We'll see how it plays out. What did you think of her performance this weekend?
On lock. I mean, it felt like it was Catrina's world and we were all living in it. She played exceptional. If you look over to the stats, her putting was 74%. We would say not ideal, but she gained strokes on the field, 3.5 strokes. A lot of in terms of the top 5, the best putting percentage was 76%. So Catrina 74 was just fine. Difference is she also has the highest circle 2 percentage at 20%.
Yep.
Kona in second has 0. Paige in third has 11. Haley King in fourth has 0. You got to get down to Missy Gannon, who's got 19% to even begin to compare numbers. So it was an all around performance that I thought was just, it felt the whole package. It was the whole package, and she didn't excel at any one thing. She wasn't first in putting. She wasn't first in drives. It looks like she was second in tee to green, behind Kona, which shout out to Kona. That's awesome.
Yeah. But Kona's putting is just so bad right now. I mean, I say right now, it's been bad.
Yeah.
She's got to pick it up. I mean, I think it's full revamp in the postseason. Again,
yes.
I know she already changed her putting this year, but it's not going well. I think it's just mechanically not sound. And she gave up 3.5 strokes, or a little under 3.5 strokes to the field, which, that means that she was basically 8 strokes worse than Catrina Allen on the putting green. 53% C1X, 0% C2. You can't win tournaments like that. Nope. You just can't. And it's hurting her game to an extent that if she can solve it and just get to league average, she's going to be really threatening, because she has been great all season tee to green.
Yeah, and it's something that the difference is, though, and you mentioned this, is you see weekends where Catrina Allen can settle down, and we know it's a mental game for Catrina Allen because her putt, I mean, it looks fine. She has weeks that she just pops off, and her circle 2 percentage, I think, is demonstrative of the fact that her putting is mechanically sound.
Yeah.
I think you're right, though. When you watch Kona's putt, it's like the room for error is just so high. There's
a reason no one putts like that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's an awkward motion.
Yeah. And like, I get it. You're trying to find something that feels comfortable for you, but I think it's like probably time to say, you know what, the Anheuser putt thing is not really working. And that's okay. I mean, I think it's okay that, you know, it's just you want to go back to the drawing board, I think, after this season. If I'm Kona Panis, I would want to. But you're right. Catrina Allen, I think the big thing for me is that she avoided big mistakes. No double bogeys. And like basically everybody else had at least a double bogey, if not more. And I think that aspect, because she wasn't tops in any statistical category. I mean, you know, other people were more in the circle in regulation. I think maybe she led the field in parked percentage. Yeah, she did. 13%.
Okay.
So that obviously helps. But for the most part, it wasn't like she completely dominated in any one category. It was that she avoided big mistakes and was all around very solid. And that is in my mind, the ticket to victory for Catrina Allen.
Paige Pierce had 2 triple bogeys and 9 OB strokes.
Yeah.
If
Compared to Katrina's 2.
Yes, and Kona's 2. If you go down to 2 OB strokes for Paige instead of the 9, she's a stroke off.
Right.
1 stroke off the lead if she goes OB as often as Catrina Allen. And, you know, there's always the what ifs, the what ifisms, the counterfactuals that don't mean anything. But the 9 OB strokes is a lot. Like, that's a ton.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why Catrina and Kona are at the top. Because you look further down the leaderboard and everybody's got 6, 7, 8, 9 OB strokes. They only had 2 apiece. And as a result, they're, you know, at the top of the leaderboard. So that's what I mean, right? And Catrina doesn't take a single double bogey. And I think you got to dig pretty far down. It's possible she was the only player of the tournament who didn't have at least a double bogey. That's right. I just checked. She's the only player not to record double or worse. So that's the key on a course like this where the strokes can swing quickly, avoiding OB, avoiding big numbers, and taking down ultimately a very comfortable win by 7 strokes.
You know, farther down the leaderboard, Haley King played well. Haley King with the ace I'd have to check what round it was, but did have the ace. Tiger Borth tied with Missy Gannon for 5th. That is the best finish of the season for Tiger. You know, Charlie, if you look over at the UDisc World Rankings, Tiger Borth got quite the bump from this 5th place finish, jumping all the way up to 10th in their world rankings. 44
places up to 10th place. Okay. I don't like that. That makes no sense to me. I mean, shout out to Tiger Borth, great finish. I don't think you should be able to jump inside the top 10 in a world rankings because you played well at one tournament. Sorry. To me, I think UDisc needs to tweak their algorithm because like Tiger Borth's finishes otherwise have not been like amazing. I mean, she's a good player, probably a top 30 player.
I don't think she's broken top 20 yet.
But she's
finished one top 20.
She's ahead of Kona Panis in these rankings. She's ahead of Heather Young in these rankings. That doesn't make any sense. Now, like obviously you want tournament results to filter in and actually impact the rankings. Like I don't just want it to be rating. But this is a little too power rankings-y for what I would want to see from world rankings. Like when I want to look at the world rankings, I really want it to reflect like who the best player is. And, you know, Catrina Allen wins 2 tournaments in a row and she's, you know, only in 4th place, which is fine because I think Evelina, Kristen, and Paige, who are ahead of her, like overall have proven to be kind of in a better spot. I don't understand how Tiger Borth goes from 44 spots up into 10th because of one 5th place finish. Sorry, that doesn't make sense.
Well, and you said, it's a little too power rankings feel. I don't care if it's power rankings or not. In no power ranking rating or stat should Tiger Borth be ahead of Kona Panis, who beat her at this tournament.
Good point.
Like,
and has clearly had the far, far superior season. It's not even close.
Right. If you had flipped and Tiger wins this tournament and Kona takes 5th, and then you have Tiger Borth at 10th and then Kona at 11th, then or vice versa, right? Like if you have someone with a consistently better season who maybe loses this one tournament but still edges out Tiger, maybe this makes no sense to me. It makes zero sense.
Okay, hang on a second. Kona Panis was in 22nd and moved up 11 spots to 11th place. Okay. Tiger Borth was in 54th, moved up 44 spots into 10th. How does that make any sense? Explain that to me.
I can't, Charlie. I can't explain it.
It makes no sense.
There's a secret algorithm that they don't release to the public.
Well, the cool thing about UDisc is that they really do talk about the math and everything behind what they're doing. And don't get me wrong, I love what those guys are doing. But this needs to be looked at because nobody would ever make these rankings. And it just is, it's nonsensical, to be honest.
I mean... I'm just looking at some of the names that Tiger Borth beat, and I'm like, nope.
Yeah, no, it just doesn't. Nobody. It doesn't pass the eye test. It doesn't pass the smell test. It doesn't pass any test. It fails every test that you give it.
If UDisc was your math teacher, I guess it would pass that test.
I guess the reason must be that because she was a low ranked player and then had this strong finish, that somehow that differential is playing in. I'm not going to sit down and do all of the math right now. I'm going to be honest. But anyway, I like this new world rankings thing from UDisc. It's nice to have, but I would like to see a little more stability in things and not have giant swings like this. Just my personal opinion. What else do you notice in FPO? I mean, we just knocked Kona for her putting, but let's admit a second place finish is really good.
Second place finish is great.
She continues to have a really good season.
She does.
Unfortunately for her, she's not having as good a season as Tiger Borth. But
savage.
It's cool to see her continuing to play really well. She's clearly just put in so much work into her game, and again, it's if she can work on the putting, she's going to be very dangerous. I think it's a kind of a bummer that she had a letdown there in the final round. 31% C1X putting in the final round, 5 bogeys, only 1 birdie, and was right there with Catrina Allen and kind of let it slip away.
Yeah. One thing I do want to point out: look at the mix of the 3 who are tied at 7th place. Could you pick a group of players any more different?
Who we got? We got
Sarah Hokum, the sidearm champion, Ella Hansen, the bomber, and Heather Young, the putting wizard.
Love it.
The most diverse.
Doesn't that tell you that MVP or I should say Maple Hill is a sweet course?
Yes, it does.
There's multiple ways to attack. There's multiple ways to win. I'm really impressed with Ella Hansen finishing 7th here, by the way. That's awesome. She's starting to putt better.
71%.
And we'll see more Ella down the rest of the stretch. And, this is not, I have to say, this is not, I would not have pegged Ella Hansen as a top 10 finisher at Maple Hill. But she was first in fairway hits. Keeping it in the fairway. Huge. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk with somebody who had 3 aces in one tournament this past weekend. Looking forward to it. We'll be right back. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. It's time for the custom programs to reopen. So if you're looking to make yourself the bag of your dreams, custom Octothorpe, custom Carlton, well, get over to pounddiscgolf.com. get ready to go because you got to be right on time if you're going to get a pack through and ordered before they sell out. So go to pounddiscgolf.com. You can check it out. Try the custom program, build a bag, see what you're thinking, pick all your colors, write it all down, and then you're ready to go. pounddiscgolf.com. Joining us now on the Upshot is Ben Osborne. He's from North Carolina. He was playing in the MA1 division at the Midtown Chiropractic Disc Golf Championship sponsored by Dynamic Discs. Finished in 14th place. So we don't often have a player with a profile like that on the Upshot, but 3 aces in a single tournament, and that is some newsworthy stuff. Ben, hello, welcome.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So really quick, we're going to talk about this tournament, of course. But first, would love to hear a little bit about your disc golf background, who you are, where you're from, and how you got into disc golf.
Yes, I've actually been playing for probably about 12 years now. Towards the end of college in about 2009, a couple buddies and I picked it up. I went to school up in the mountains at Appalachian State. So instead of just hiking, it actually gave us something to do while we were walking around. So started playing on Ashe County, which is probably my favorite course in the state and one of the highest rated courses in the state. So a tough one, but a good one to learn on and one that I'll have to go back to. So been playing PDGA since I believe about 2011.
And are these courses ones that you're familiar with? Do you play these often? I know sometimes when you're playing ones that are maybe in the state or in the area, they're courses that but don't really play all that much, or are these like home turf for you?
So I live in the Greensboro area of North Carolina, so the Raleigh area is about an hour and a half from me, so they're not courses I'm terribly familiar with. We have a tournament each summer here called the Great 8, where you start at sunrise and finish at sunset and play 8 courses throughout a day.
Wow.
So I did that a couple years ago when we were all kind of locked down during the pandemic. And we play all short layouts, obviously, so you can get through the courses. But that was my only time seeing the 2 courses that we played on Sunday this year. And then the courses we played Saturday, I'd played just a handful of times each. So I knew a little bit about them, but no, not terribly familiar to me.
So tell us about this. You're in rare company. I don't know how many people have shot 3 aces in one tournament, but it can't be a very large number. What's going through your mind when you hit ace 1, ace 2, ace 3?
Ace 1 was just kind of, it was my 3rd hole of the tournament, and I missed the par 4 before it, which is one that I feel like I should get. So really, it kind of just felt like I had made up a stroke there, and it felt like, the same thing as going birdie. So luckily, that first one was actually filmed. I had a kid on my card named Abel Boyd. He's a 15-year-old who actually went on to win the tournament, so big future for that kid, I imagine. But his mom was with him on that course, and she filmed some different shots, and I noticed her filming on hole 5. So I threw that one, and she caught it on video, so we got that, which was really cool. I think it was my first filmed ace. And my 3rd PDGA ace, so I went into the tournament with 2, and I left with 5, so that was pretty cool. First one was just down a valley. It's about 290 feet, goes down a valley and then goes into the woods.
What'd you throw?
That was a ESP Raptor. We heard it go in the chains. Weren't sure if it sat, but we knew it came in at an angle that looked pretty good. And those are some mock baskets that are a little tough to catch on, so probably made it a little even more impressive. But got down there and it was in. That was cool. Card mates gave me a little slack, said, I wasn't excited, didn't act like I had gotten an ace. And it was my 3rd hole of the tournament, so I had bigger goals at that point. So I knew I'd get some money, but at the same time, it was just a couple strokes on the card.
So you did put in for the ace pot?
I did. And actually later in that round, with just a couple holes left, I ran into the TD for the event and the TD for that course. And he told me there had been 2 other aces that morning, but then he went and checked on his phone, and neither of them were in the ace pool. So after that morning round, I was the only ace in the ace pool.
Okay, so then take us to ace number 2.
All right, so the first one was a good shot. The second one was my final hole on a course, East Clayton. It's the course out of the 4 that I felt I could probably score on the best and make the moves on. Just a really tough wooded course. It's got a lot of teeth. Not many aceable holes out there anyway. But we finished on a shot that's about 230 feet. And in warming up, I found it was easy. Just throw a soft flick down the left side, let it skip towards the basket, settle, easy shot. I didn't play my best out there. A little deflated come the final hole. Completely missed my line, go through an inside line that I didn't know existed. So I said, all right, hit the inside line. And another kid on my card said, well, skip in. So instead of skipping towards the basket, it actually skipped into the basket. So that one was one of the more traditional throw a bad shot, get an ace type of thing, whereas the first one was good.
And what disc was that?
That one was an old flippy Firebird, kind of that right after 11 time finished and 12 time came out. So one of those nice old ones.
Nice. Okay, so then at this point you're thinking, wow, 2 aces, 1 tournament. How about number 3?
Yeah, 3 was just ridiculous. I had talked to my fiance on the phone the night before, and I was like, yeah, I've got 2 aces, and that's really cool. Like, I know people have done that, and I was like, but I've got 2 more courses. If I can pick up 1 more, that's rarefied air right there, especially for an A tier that's playing, some tough layouts on some tough courses. So the next one, I somehow didn't get an ace in my 3rd round, so I felt a little bad about that. And went into the 4th.
Shame on you. Terrible.
I know, it's terrible. So, yeah, we go into the 4th round, and it was my 2nd hole of the day there. And step up, it's a 365-foot shot. It's downhill. It's probably playing about 320, 325. It's got trees lining each side of the fairway. Makes for a really tight hallway that you have to come down into before you approach the basket. Through an old flippy X-Cow that I really trust in the woods just to go dead straight for a long ways. Made a slight S-curve around the final tree, bounced right in front of the basket, hopped right into it, sat down, ran down the fairway like, man, I just got my 3rd ace of the tournament, and honestly, probably a top 2 ace of mine of all time, so it was really cool. And I went back and looked at the PDGA numbers, and that hole had 4 birdies, 1 ace, and the rest were pars, bogeys, and more, so wow. Pretty tough hole.
Would you rather have won the tournament or have done this, get 3 aces?
Honestly, it's tough. After I was riding back with my buddy, and I told him, I've got wins that I probably wouldn't trade for it, and that's how I felt at the time, and probably still do about a couple wins. This tournament in particular, winning an A tier in an AM event would be cool, but not many people can go in the record books and say they've got 3 aces during a 4-round PDGA event, so it's something fewer people can share with me, so I might have to go with the aces.
Well, and it doesn't sound like any of these were cheapies. Like you think about when I first heard about this, I was like, what kind of course are we talking about here? Is this like little 200-foot straight shot holes where everybody's getting aces? But that doesn't sound like it's the case at all. No,
not at all. And that's kind of what I think is one of the cool distinguishing things about it is just that, we really did play 4 difficult layouts. And like that Clayton course I mentioned, there really is just a small handful of holes I could go out there and say, yeah, I potentially could ace this hole. So, to get 3 over those layouts is pretty ridiculous.
So here's the question for you then. Are you one of those who likes to retire discs when you get an ace? And it may be not regularly, but will any of those 3 discs get retired as their, the memorial to the amazing accomplishment?
No, not at all. They clearly fly too well for me to take out of the bag at the moment.
Good.
No, and the pink Raptor that I threw for the first one, we actually lost for a good couple minutes 2 holes later that went OB behind a creek, and right before we were about to start a clock, we ended up finding it. So that would have been a bit unfortunate.
I'm glad you found it. All right. Well, any thoughts? We obviously mostly talk about professional disc golf here. Any favorite pros? You were just saying before we came on the air that you're going to be out at maybe up at GMC this weekend. You're going to be in Vermont.
Yeah, we actually had a vacation plan to go to Vermont, and I actually was planning to go out to Smuggler's Notch one day and play a little bit of golf, and then I happened to find out that the Pro Tour was going to be there. I've actually been good buds with Nathan Queen since before he started touring. We met back when we both lived in the New Bern area here in North Carolina. So I told him I'd try to come out there and meet up with him for a little bit. So I guess I would have to shout out Nathan as one of my favorites. And then probably Haley King. I really love watching the women play disc golf and what they're able to do.
So
awesome. What do you think?
Yeah, so I was going to say, who's your picks to win this week, Ben? MPO and FPO, who do you got?
Oh, man. I'm going to go with Paige and Ricky, I guess.
Okay.
That's a
2 heavy hitters, but they're solid picks,
Love it. All right, Ben. Well, congratulations on an awesome accomplishment, and thanks so much for coming on the show, and enjoy the time up in Vermont.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me.
Hopefully we'll see you out at USDGC.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be at USDC double, so maybe I'll see you.
Awesome. All right, Ben Osborne with us here on the Upshot after getting 3 aces in one tournament. Email us if you've ever done it. I won't believe you. All right, Ben, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Upshot. Great to talk with Ben. I am still hunting my first ace, so I can't even imagine getting 3.
Really?
I've come very close a couple times, but a couple field aces, but nothing off the tee. I'll get there someday.
You will.
We can
Ben
all
needs to
dream
share.
of getting 3 in one tournament. Crazy. All right, let's turn our attention to this week's Green Mountain Championships up in Vermont. Early report. It's beautiful up there. Of course it is. This time of year, such a nice time to be up in Vermont. It's pretty close to the Canadian border up there. And, cool weather, early fall, just a spectacular pair of courses. Josh, this is your number one, right? That's what you said last week.
They're my favorite courses. I think this is the best golf of the season. So I cannot wait.
Super fun. We all know these courses well. I think since Worlds, we all got a chance to really watch how Fox Run and Brewster Ridge play. Obviously, you've got Brewster very wooded, not a lot of OB, but lots of punishing. If you get off the fairway, you're going to be just pitching out. And some really cool lines through the woods. Still some shots where you can open up, and it's not, pure density like Iron Hill, but definitely wooded and going to challenge shot shaping and, how well can you hit your lines. Then you got Fox Run, where power comes into play. You have more of a traditional, I don't want to call it park style. I mean, it's just because these courses were both designed with disc golf in mind and like, we're going to take this property and we're going to make disc golf courses on it. That's why they're great, because you're not trying to work around the dog path or whatever. You're just designing holes that are awesome. There is OB, but this is as tasteful as it gets. You've got white stakes. You've got very clear high grass that marks the OB. You have some iconic holes. I want to see Calvin Heimberg get another 3 on hole number 7. There's opportunity to really see full power drives, and one of the best finishing holes on tour in hole number 18 on Fox Run. Just an awesome pair of courses.
And I think the biggest thing about it is not only, this tournament is, I think, kind of the standard of how you can design amazing golf courses that are still appealing to coverage. It's easy to track. It feels clean. It's easy to kind of tell where the disc needs to go when you're in the woods. And aesthetically speaking, when it comes to both courses, they're absolutely beautiful. And so I think that these courses are kind of the standard of when we talk about it. We just need more courses where we buy properties and put down pro disc golf courses. This is what comes to mind. This is kind of the standard of what we need. It's got the coverage, it's got the view, and it's got the golf.
And it's gonna spectate well too. I mean, particularly Fox Run. Brewster a little tougher because there's lots of corners where you can't really see around, but there's not much you can do about that. I mean, that's just woods golf. So let's take a look at our picks from last week. We both scored 4 points, and neither of us picked winners in either category. I was most interested in that we struggled in FPO, where we've been routinely picking 4 out of 5 correct, but not this week, just 2 for each of us.
You tell me you didn't have Tiger Borth in your top 5? The world standings suggest you should have thought about it. Both of us, Paige and Catrina for FPO. MPO, both of us had Ricky. I went with Eagle. You went with Calvin. But I thought about Adam Hammis, but left him off.
That's the life in MPO right now. Who you're going to leave off
really is
almost a bigger question than who you're going to put in. So in our over-under contest, well, it was a push. We moved the line to 3 players over 1040 in the top 5, and it was exactly 3. Now, Matt Oram, so close, 1039 rated. And Adam
we'll see on Tuesday.
I think it's 1038 right now. So a couple of guys very close to that number, but not inside the number. So nobody wins this week. 3 was the right number, and we move on to this week. Josh, do you have an over-under for me?
I do. And this week, I've actually got 2 of them for you, Charlie. The first one relates to Brewster Ridge. Last year, Kevin Jones and James Conrad both shot 13 under at Brewster Ridge. Just amazing rounds. After that, the next highest round was 10 under. So, Charlie, my line for you, 11.5 as being the hot round at Brewster Ridge.
I'm going to take the over. I think someone will shoot 12 or better.
Okay. All right.
Only need 1.
We did last year. You got 2 of them last year. So you only need 1. All right. Here's my second over under, though, for you, Charlie. Over under 7, or let's do 5.5 players. No, I don't think that's high enough. Over under 6.5 players in the 1040 club after ratings update on Tuesday.
Update. How many is it now? It's 5?
Because it's 5 now. Adam Hammis is 1038. Matt Oram is 1039. Nicholas Antila was like 1034, I believe. I'd have to go look. But he played great over this stretch. And then you had one other who I'd have to go. Yeah. I'd have to go look. I don't have it up right now.
What's the number? 6.5?
6.5.
If only I had time to do some math right now. I'm under the
I know.
gun.
I have not looked.
Over. I'm an over guy. Just give me the over. It's not actually off the right bet, but I think that Matty O and Hammis are going to get there, and everybody else will stay above that number. So I'll say over. When do we get the update? It's soon. Tuesday.
Next Tuesday.
Right. Well, we'll be able to talk about it on next week's show then. Okay, so great. There it is. I've got the overs. Josh has the unders. We will scope it out next week. I think, are we tied right now? We're tied at 6.
We're tied at 6.
Okay, no one wins this week.
Yeah.
We get a push. So on we go to our picks. Take it away, Josh.
All right. I'm going to start over in FPO. I'm putting Haley King at the top. Last year, Haley King and Paige Pierce had the runaway. Paige takes it down by 2 strokes. I believe it was 14-12. Haley King, though, plays well here. This is something that
way far away from everyone else.
Oh, jeez, a mile. I think that Haley King is going to be able to do it this year. I've got Catrina Allen in second. I think she's playing really well right now, and I think she wants to make that bid for Player of the Year. So, Catrina Allen in second, Paige in third. Well, but not well enough to beat these two, I don't think, this week. Kona Panis in fourth, just giving her a nod. I mean, if she keeps the drive up, then even if her putter's not working great, then I think she'll still do really well. And I've got Sarah Hokum in number 5. She's historically played well here. She's got a good sidearm. You know, all the reasons.
I have the same 5 players. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Same order?
No, I do not have them in the same order. I'll go from 5 to 1. In 5th, I have Kona Panis. In 4th, I have Sarah Hokum. In 3rd, I have Haley King. In 2nd, Paige Pierce. In 1st, Catrina Allen. The big thinking here is that Catrina Allen's in great form right now, playing with a lot of confidence, showing you that she's got all aspects of the game dialed in, and I think, can bounce back after kind of a poor performance on this pair of courses last year. I think I definitely understand like having Haley King at the top, given the way that she played here last year, but I'm kind of thinking like a little bit more, what have you done for me lately? And Catrina Allen's clearly been the best player of the last, I said month, but I agree. 2 weeks. We'll give it 2 weeks. And I think that she's going to keep it rolling up at GMC. Over in MPO, I am picking Eagle McMahon to bounce back and get the win this weekend. Look, if you put yourself in a position to win, as he has done almost all season, you're just going to win more often than not. Disappointing final round at MVP doesn't take away from the fact that he played really well overall, and you're not going to see him just be abandoned by his Circle 2 putting all that often. So I think that he's going to be able to, certainly compete very well at Fox Run And I think he's just been getting better and better on the more wooded courses. And so I think he's going to take it down this weekend. In second, I've got Ricky Wysocki, who just continues to play great disc golf week in and week out. He's pretty consistently top 3 these days, and I'm sticking with him. James Conrad for me in third place. I think he loves these courses and plays really well here. And I expect to see him inside the top 5 this week. Kevin Jones, who won this tournament last year, I have in fourth place. Just haven't seen quite enough of him playing great right now to pick him to win this thing, but I know that he's going to play well out here. And in fifth, I've got Matt Oram, who just keeps on finishing inside the top 5, and I want to get those points.
Well, we actually only have 2 of the same in top 5, which, I mean, is becoming the story in MPO. I mean, there are going to be weeks, I think, in the next few years where we can have complete 5 different picks. But I actually have Eagle McMahon to win it as well. All the same reasons. I think he's just he's playing well, and Maple Hill, he had a bad front 9 on round 3, but he still had a good tournament. I have Calvin Heimberg in second, which, Charlie, every time you leave him off, you seem to get bitten by that. So I'm taking advantage of that one, putting Calvin up there in second. Also had a pretty good weekend. I have Adam Hammis in third. A little surprised you chose to leave him off. But, I mean, you got to leave somebody off, right? Matt Oram in fourth. Solid top. Matt Oram right now feels like perhaps the most consistent top 5 lock in this stretch of the tour. Like, over any other guy, I mean, it feels like Matty O is going to be there, going to be in the mix. So, and then I have Kyle Klein in fifth. It's a course that I think he can play well. Kyle Klein's playing well, but that does mean I am leaving Ricky off. So,
what's the worst?
Calvin or Ricky?
Leaving off Ricky or leaving off Calvin or leaving off Hammis? I think it's leaving off Ricky, which is why I feel good about my picks. But
I think you're right, but
the results will tell us the answers.
The combo.
Guess we'll see. All right, that is going to do it for this week's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Apologies, we are only having the 1 show this week, but we'll be back with 2 for next week as we get into the final swing, heading towards USDGC. We're about a month away, and we've got the Pro Tour Championships. We've also got to talk about the Match Play Championships that are coming up. So lots to get to over an exciting final month and a half of the tour, and can't wait to get into it. Let us know what you want to hear us talk about, who you want to see us have on as a guest. Upshot at ultiworld.com. Always look forward to hearing from you. We've got a bunch of great mail this last couple weeks. We'll get to it sometime soon. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long, and we'll talk to you next week right here on The Upshot.